Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this Enterprise Ireland webinar on innovation within warehousing and logistics. I see people are slowly coming in, but just to introduce the webinar today, ourselves and Enterprise Ireland are delighted to present this webinar and report on innovation within warehousing and logistics. As you can see, we have an excellent panel of speakers with you here today. Who I'll introduce now in just a moment. But just to run you through the agenda for what we're discussing today. So my name is Jack Coonahan. I'm the Trade Development Executive based in the UK with Enterprise Ireland, and I cover off ports, warehousing, logistics. I'm joined by my colleague Kevin Fennelly, who is our market advisor for engineering and agriculture. And together we've been working on this webinar and working in the warehousing and logistics space for the past couple of months. We are delighted to be joined by Conor, Peacock and Imran Moseley of Yet2. Yet2 are a consultancy that we've been working with to create this report on innovation within warehousing and supply chain, looking at the different areas of innovation within the warehousing sector and drilling into the key needs within the sector, and they've kindly put together this report that they will be speaking through and we will be sharing towards the end of the session. We're also delighted to be joined by two experts within the field. So firstly, we're going to hear from Simon Jones, who is a senior operations manager within the Very Group. He will be presenting for 10 minutes, and then following Simon, we'll also have Martin White, who is the group logistics director for JD Sports. And then following those presentations, we're going to have a panel discussion. So if you would like to, I can see actually that we still have Nathan Seaburn who's down for the panel discussion, but we've kindly had Simon join us instead. So it'll be myself, Kevin, Simon and Martin for that panel discussion. If you would like to ask any questions at any point, please do so. You'll see the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen. Please ask any questions that you would like to the panel, and we'll be sure to ask them during the panel discussion. We hope to finish up at around 12 o'clock. Just to give you a quick overview before I hand over to Conor and Imran, most of you will know already, but just to give you a quick piece of context, Enterprise Ireland is the trade and development agency of the Irish government. We support SMEs in global markets. Myself and Kevin are based in the UK, and we have been focusing on the warehousing and logistics space for the past number of months. The reason that we have focused on this area, which is, I suppose you might say, a little bit niche and very specific, is because of the sizable opportunity that the UK warehousing logistics sector presents to UK companies. We would have seen with the challenges around Brexit, around space and costs and labor shortages, that there's a significant opportunity for companies to innovate and to create efficiencies within the sector. And that's why we're really excited to be working in this sector and to be partnering with some of the speakers that we have with us today. Just a quick note on some of the work that we've done already. We last month published a guide to warehousing in the UK, and we had a webinar that we ran on it as well, essentially giving an overview of what sort of trends and types of warehousing that Irish companies should look at if they're looking to export to the UK. It's essentially a first step guide to exporting in the UK, to looking at fulfillment options when you are exporting to the UK. And I'd highly recommend, if you are interested or if this is something that is relevant to your company, to please check out our YouTube channel where you'll have the recording of that webinar, and please get in touch if you would like a copy of the report that we published. Just to come back to the report and the discussion that we have at hand today, this is a preview of the report that we published with Yet2, and I'll hand over to them in a second. Essentially, 4 interviews were undertaken with some key warehousing providers in the UK, and some conclusions were drawn off the back of those. And I'll let Conor and Imran talk you through that in just a second. But the last thing that I'll say is, once again, we'd love to get your thoughts and to get you engaged on this webinar. So please, if you have any comments or questions, please do put them into the Q&A tab, and we'll try our best to get to them and put them to our speakers. So without further ado, I will hand the stage over to Conor and Imran. Conor, if you would like to share your slides there.
Great, excellent. You should be able to see the Yet To presentation now. And if it looks like I'm peering into the heavens, I promise I'm not. I'm just actually using a presentation screen here to walk you through the slides. Maybe just a brief introduction into who Yet To are and how this particular relationship came about. Yet To ultimately work on discovering and identifying new opportunities for a variety of clients. Both across industry, but also across public and private bodies. Typically, we work on a specific theme or a specific topic area and really help our clients with information and intel gathering in a particular area. And if we go to the next slide, we'll just give you a bit more context on that particular area in this case. So we work closely with Enterprise Island over the past few months. Specifically looking at the area of warehousing innovation. And the idea was, I think, to really find intel and identify specific areas of interest within the UK and the potential value that we can then bring to the companies that Enterprise Island represents. And maybe kind of move to the next slide. Thank you. And just a little bit about Conor and myself. We obviously both work for Yet To and partner closely in this particular project with Enterprise Island in actually going out and gathering the data and bringing that information back to Kevin and Jack. Conor leads our delivery efforts here in the EU and across the UK. And I look after some of our client relationships in the region and globally as well. And a little bit about really, I think, the process that we undertook during the collaboration and the time that we spent with Enterprise Island. And we really went through this sort of three-stage process based on our experience in doing these kinds of projects and also working across a number of different categories and industries with various bodies. And this seems to be the approach that serves us well. And on the next slide, we'll talk about the areas that we covered as part of that also. So as you'll see here, these are the areas that we covered during our interviews and outreach. And maybe to present that in a bit more detail, I'll hand over to Conor now, and he'll walk you through some of the findings and some of the key areas.
Great, thank you, Imran, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. So yeah, the kind of four key themes we covered during our interviews with the warehouse operators were around their current operations, typically things like stock movement, and any recent changes to how they typically operate in their warehouses over the past 2 to 5 years, and any recent investments they may have made as well. New solutions is obviously very important for the innovation space, looking at not just the technology, but how these technologies are incorporated within the warehouse, things like how they are procured and the supplier that a journey that a new supplier may take in order to implement within a warehouse, as well as speaking about the market, generally, you know, the current biggest challenges that these operators have and how they're trying to address those. And also automation and digitization. You know, we all know this is going to be it currently is, and it is going to be an even more important space for these warehouse operators. And we wanted to drill down really into how these companies are implementing automation and digitalization and what's preventing them today from doing that, in order to then have a bit more of a forward-looking statement, you know, 5-year outlook on how these technologies are going to be implemented and used and benefit the customers. So we worked closely with Enterprise Island to draw up those key themes and a number of detailed questions. And we spoke with 4 warehouse operators, relatively high profile in the warehousing space and logistics space. So GXO, they're the largest pure play contract logistics provider in the world, just over 6 billion in revenue across around 850 warehouse locations. We've got Great Bear, who are part of the larger Kalina group. They're actually the largest privately owned logistics provider in the UK and very strongly focused on FMCG, just over $2 billion in turnover, and over 22,000 employees. Wincanton, another UK-based organisation, they've founded over 100 years ago, over 19,000 employees and over 160 sites. And James & James Fulfillment, a slightly younger organisation, founded in 2010, but growing very rapidly. I believe they have over 200 employees now, and more of a focus on fashion, cosmetics, sports apparel, and things like that as well. And so we spoke to all four of these organizations at great length. And you can imagine that we just covered a lot of space and a lot of detail. And so we just wanted to highlight some of the key themes that emerged from our discussions with these organizations, and just distill some of these key takeaways down. So the first was this extremely high demand for warehousing that everyone's seeing at the moment. Everyone say it's the occupancy rates in warehouses are an all-time high in the UK, and this scarcity was mentioned by all. Wincanton specifically saying there are no vacant sites whatsoever. And these space restrictions and the scarcity of space and the increase of cost that comes with that has led to other knock-on problems, such as impacts on lead time, availability of vehicles, more general transport problems. And so, you know, this was really, really important to reflect in our report, which goes into much more detail about the nature of this space challenge. And another theme that's very closely linked with the challenge of restricted space is the constraints on property. So a number of the organizations mentioned this common enemy, perhaps that's too strong a word, but you know, Amazon accounted for a quarter of all new warehouse space in the preceding 2 years. And this is an all-time high, and competition for this space is at an all-time high. With organizations that are especially large, like for example, GXO, they are able to use their scale in order to secure better terms on real estate. They're often, you know, the largest tenant that the landlords, many industrial landlords are familiar with. And the demand on property and the constraints on property has led to these organizations expanding their available space and also optimizing their existing space with automation and technology. And so it's a really promising area for innovation and for technology to help. Obviously, you can see Great Bear, they're talking about simply expanding their space. But a number of these organizations are talking about you know, improved automation, which can lead to things such as higher shelf building, reduced walkway space due to the use of automation. Again, just increasing that efficiency of what they already have. Moving to the next slide now. Another key theme we saw was that automation. So it's nicely linked with the property constraints. Probably the most talked about technology, as you can imagine. 3 out of 4 of the warehouse operators we spoke to gave this as their main innovative focus and was top of the list for their sort of internal program and external programs. It can be a very market dependent theme. So GXO, for example, you know, they run lots of very different warehouses depending on the industry and market that they're servicing. So typically, for example, you may see e-commerce. There's less opportunity right now for automation. It's a more labor intensive, a highly labor intensive area. And it's more typical in other industries to have full automation, for example. And another key takeaway here is that the joint development is very important, and it's a bonus here. And Great Bear, you can see on the right there, the solutions are typically developed jointly between logistics providers and the customers. It's not really possible to do these things in a vacuum, and you really do need to collaborate closely with the customers as warehouse operator in order to not just implement it, but also implement the right technologies in the right way as well, and figure out how best to link up with their existing systems as well. I think it's also important to note that Great Bear, they're acknowledging that it's a very slow process to implement this. You really need to go, you know, long-term view in order to get these implemented. It can be also very capital intensive and lots of R&D in order to get there. And the final theme here is on the labour part of things. So we did know that this was going to be important going into this report, but it was a surprise, the frequency and the importance with which labour was mentioned. We know that this is how the entire industry runs, but it was really nice to see a number of different efforts here, internal innovation specifically, with things such as education centres, collaborations with training providers, to improve the health and well-being of the labour, but also to improve retention of staff. You've got things like the GXO University for training and retention, as well as Wincanton. They have a number of links to external training providers and education centres, as well as an apprenticeship scheme. And James and James, they try and make themselves as agile as possible. Nice, easy onboarding process, as well as responding more quickly in peak seasons. This has also been heavily impacted by Brexit, as we all know. And so the outlook over the next 5 years was really interesting here. The reduced reliance on physical labour with that automation, and pick and pack specifically suffering with labour shortages and extremely fast turnover, even more so than we've seen in the past. And so after speaking with all these organisations, we managed to distill, as you said, down into these key themes: the high demand, property constraints, the automation restrictions, and labour. And all of these challenges, they pose a strong potential for collaboration and innovation. Enterprise Ireland, we've supported them on this journey and fed this information back to them. And they will be engaging with these warehouses individually, seeking to find alliances between the warehouses and their cohort companies as well. And Yet2 are just very excited to be supporting these alliances wherever needed. We're also excited about the future collaborations that may and potentially will result between Enterprise Ireland and the UK warehouses and their cohort organisations. And I just wanted to thank you all for listening again today, and thank you, Enterprise Ireland, for inviting us. And we're really looking forward to hearing the rest of these fantastic speakers. Thank you, Jack.
Thanks very much, Conor, and thanks very much, Imran, as well, for your work in delivering this report and indeed the slide deck there. Kevin is going to be sharing the webinar, or the report rather, in the chat, I think following this presentation or as soon as he can. So I would highly recommend that you take a look at it and deliver your feedback if you can to ourselves. But essentially, without further ado, then I think we'll move on to our next speaker, Simon Jones of the Very Group. Simon, if you would like to begin your presentation, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So just a bit of introduction to myself, really. It's great to be here. So my name's Simon Jones. I'm a Senior Operations Manager here at the Very Group, located in Skygate, East Midlands. So part of my role is day-to-day operations and the strategical operational plan going forward in the short and medium term. A little bit about the Very Group. Obviously, it was founded in 1923, and most recently there was a decision to move from our previous roots, being catalogue sales and the Littlewoods, you may previously know, into being more e-commerce focused, and most recently that's been the kind of the main solution for the business, has been through our e-commerce and online presence. Previous to my Very Group experience, I've got 10 years experience in logistics, most notably at Marks and Spencer's, working a very similar logistics background, working on their clothing and home, again as a senior operations manager there at the site, so quite experienced in logistics and fulfillment from a background perspective. What I want to talk to you today about is a bit of a kind of background to the story around the Very Group site here at Skygate, and it's a very new site, been open just over 2 years now here at East Midlands. Give you a little bit of backdrop to the decisions why this particular location and the site was built and created, but also to give you a little bit around the kind of solutions that we have here at site. So hopefully you can see the slides and everything showing up, and technology is not letting us down. So as I mentioned, a fulfillment centre is based in the East Midlands. The go live date for Skygate was actually...
Sorry, Simon, I don't see your slides there. I'm not sure if the other speakers can see. Yeah, that's coming up for me there.
Fantastic. Apologies about that. So our Skygate site went live on the 23rd of March 2020, which most notably was the day of the national lockdown. That was the first day of the site going live. So a very challenging day to start, but actually from that we've learned a great deal and actually been able to operate more significantly outside of lockdown, but given that we went into a very difficult period for the country and for logistics in general. One of the key founding principles to Skygate was actually consolidation. So we had two main legacy fulfillment centres, one based at Shaw and one based in Raven, and one was our e-commerce fulfillment centre, a very manual, a legacy site, been open for a number of years, and also our returns operation, again a legacy site with a number of different challenges and opportunities there. So really was around consolidating that, bringing it all into one place and bringing it within the very group as a whole. The building space itself is 500,000 square foot in its foundations, but actually due to the mezzanine floors and the different operating spaces that we build into the site, actually it's 860,000 square foot, so quite considerable size and scale. You'll see that from some of the images as we go through the pack. One of the key decisions around where to place the fulfillment centre was, I suppose there's a number of locations around the country that we could have chose, and actually there was a number of principles as to why the East Midlands, and most notably the East Midlands Gateway, was decided upon. A number of different key points. So one of the aspects is actually on our spread of customers, bulk of which are around the kind of east and central locations in the country. Our centrality to that means that from moving from the northwest actually to the East Midlands Gateway meant that we reduced our locations to customers by quite a considerable amount, and actually now we're within proximity to 18 miles of our core central customers, which is a great asset to getting those customer orders out on time in full within a one-day send. Close to future customers as well, so a lot of our scoping prior to Skygate's birth and creation was actually where do we foresee our market moving in the future. Actually, again, this perfect location was for Skygate for fulfillment was in the East Midlands Gateway area. Next was around the suppliers and our UK suppliers, but also our imports coming from Far East and other locations from our suppliers there. And actually perfect location, given that we are really close to a lot of the main motorway network, so M1. We're also shortened our distance to the UK ports for our UK, but also international suppliers as well. And then from a air freight perspective, we are right next to the East Midlands Gateway, which again, you'll see from the map that I'll show in a second. Another one, which is a bit further ahead, but which is around our railhead. So we've had a railhead location built, and that was part of the plans for Skygate, was a railhead to be created nearby. We're within a mile of that railhead, which means we can utilise that from an efficiency and a reduction in cost from that perspective. Two other main areas was our sortation centres for our main carrier networks. We're within 10 miles of this location, actually slightly further away from our northwest, but actually the other benefits gained and meant that we weren't moving too far away from those locations. And then access to major road networks, as mentioned, the M1, A50 being a real central location for the East Midlands. So a number of reasons why the East Midlands was created. As you can see from the image here, in square is the Skygate location. It's a what we describe as a golden triangle of kind of logistics centres. We've got a very a newly built logistics centre with a number of different logistics sites. As you can see, we are right next to the East Midlands Gateway, and as you can see in the left-hand side, the rail head that again we're right next to, so a prime location for the site to be built, but a vast distribution centre site with a number of different suppliers located around us. In the creation of Skygate and the decision against the solution that we're going to put into the fulfillment centre was around what solution do we have. So there's a number of different options out there. There's a number of different suppliers that we could have chosen. And going into Skygate, there was 9 core principles that were kind of created to ensure that we got the optimal solution and that we didn't specify our requirements going into the site creation, which meant that we would get too much of a bespoke solution. So as we mentioned on the left hand side, one of the key elements was actually that being an e-com fulfillment center, we wanted to be able to deliver to within the customer in a minimal amount of time. So within 30 minutes was the aspiration for the site, and that's what we've been able to deliver to the solution. We wanted to aim towards technology and being an automated center over manual, really importantly for obviously the labour market and being some challenges around the logistics centre and being within the golden triangle of a very hot spot of logistics centre, being in the centre of the country, but also around future-proofing the business and being able to kind of grow within the next 10 to 15 years at the site here and as a business around our e-commerce customer base. Another key element was around our efficiency. So a really important part of the creation of Skygate was around our reduction in our labour costs, but also about how we can improve the service to our customers and offer a better order time and be quicker, faster, more efficient to be able to deliver for the customer. One also key aspect was around our order pull forward. So being able to offer a customer a delivery, but also be able to deliver that ahead of time. Really important to be efficient as a site, to be able to do that, to operate as we need to as a site where our labour profiles fit, but also to be able to kind of deliver ahead of expectations for the customer. So we needed the solution to be able to deliver that for us. Flow of warehouse was really about how do we control the flow of the site and really get control over how we produce our orders, at what times we do our orders, and where and how we do those. When we bring stock in and when we ship our stock out was a really important aspect of the generation of the site. And then what we wanted to do is really get access to late cut-offs. Obviously a very competitive market, the e-commerce clothing and footwear and homeware electrical world is about offering the customers a very good optimal time to order, given that everyone's busy life. We wanted to be able to offer a late cut-off time, but also be able to offer a next day service and to some areas a same day service as well. And that similarly feeds into optionality as well. We wanted the customers to have a choice of delivery options, a choice of buying solutions, but also around the business being a unique selling point to the business around our financing solutions as well. So we wanted that to really play into how we fulfill customer orders, is around how the customer buys and funds their solution as well. And really one of the key elements that really plays through a lot of the solutions on site is around being vanilla first. So not over solutionizing the end product, not creating too much of a bespoke solution in that creates further problems and means that integrations with other systems is really difficult. Actually, we chose to go for an MVP, which is most vulnerable. Sorry, MVP, I'll come back to that shortly. It's gone out of my mind. But in terms of getting a vanilla solution first, it was the key element. And then the 5 different kind of elements that I wanted to talk through was around our OSR, which is our storage and retrieval system, which is with the bulk of our products being box-based and very minimal amount being hanging-based. We needed a real efficient solution to be able to store and build the capacity within the site, but also to be able to get those orders out within a very short period of time. And secondly was around our pocket solution. So ability to pick in advance of customer orders, but also the solution gave us a lot of wins in a number of different areas in terms of the reduction in capacity it needs for when you're picking those orders, and actually the ability to flex between customer orders and prioritize orders ahead of other orders, which was one of the perks of having that solution, and the minimal amount of time to pick and dispatch through the hanging pocket system, and the versatility that solution gave us. Third was around our goods to man. So going back to one of the key points was around efficiency. Goods to man stations offers that efficiency, but also from a colleague engagement perspective means that their kind of health and safety is at the forefront, and the automation does the work for them, but also means we can optimize the speed, the time, the efficiency of the site. So that was a really important part of the decision. And then the last 2 around some of the automation decisions around sort of our packing and outbound solutions, one of which we've got 3 automated bagging machines, which again was around kind of driving the efficiency and capacity of the site and ensuring that our output of site was in need of, it meets our criteria points, but also we're reducing down our labour footprint and our sustainability. And then fifth was around having a sorter solution, which meant that we could bypass some of our main carrier hubs. So improving some of the speed to customer, so we can go direct to some of our delivery hubs instead of going through some of the national sort centers. So our sorter solution gives us that ability to sort to delivery hub level and even to postcode level, so that we can deliver direct there. Moving on, so we've got some of our key facts, which is around the size and scale, and I've covered some of these points for the footprint. So I'll go through some of the capacity areas. So from our inbound receipts, we can receive up to 13,000 items per hour. From our returns, up to 4,000 items can be returned within 1 hour, and actually our speed to return is within 30 minutes of a return arriving to site. We can have that returned. And then units picked per hour, up to 14,000 on our peak day. We did almost 360,000 items per day. Parcels packed per hour, just over 8,500 items packed per hour in our peak day. And our dispatch sorter has the capability, and through peak will deliver up to 11,000, just over 11,000 parcels per day. And stock holding on site,
Simon,
just over
I might get you to
7.5
wrap
million.
up in a minute.
Yep, no problem.
Cheers, thank you.
In terms of just some images of the site, so before, you can see the site, as we mentioned before, quite an open scale area, and it's built up in the last 2 to 3 years prior to the site building up. And some of the facilities we've got on site, most notably being some key elements to the site being our mugger pitch and our GM facilities and a high-tech OSR and flow room facilities, as you can see there, and all that information will be in the pack for you to have a look at. And then you can see some close-up images again that will be in the pack for you to see of some of the OSR solution shuttle systems that we've got through our CNAP provider. And then just lastly, just on some of our solutions and how we got here, was around CNAP delivering the solution on our go live being the 23rd of March, and around our integration with CNAP, and then providing us the intelligence to be able to deliver to our customers. So we've got a number of different monitoring systems to be able to deliver that. Love to be able to talk through more and more with you, but given the time, I'll start to wrap up. But yeah, thank you very much everyone for your time. Really great to kind of be able to play back to you all some of the Skygate solutions, and I'll be available for the panel for any questions. Thank you everyone.
Thanks very much, Simon. And we'll be sure to cover off the CNAP and the Keysoft analytics points there in the panel discussion. Some really interesting points to raise there and to pick up again later on. But without further ado, I will hand over to Martin. And just a quick point as well, once again, if you would like to ask any questions to our panelists, please do so in the Q&A tab. Thanks very much. Martin, over to you.
Thank you. Hopefully, can you see my screen, everybody?
That's perfect there, Martin.
Yeah, okay, good. Well, good morning, everyone. Martin White, Group Logistics Director for JD Sport. My background, I'm a career logistician, either line management or consulting. Prior to JD, I spent 11 years as Group Supply Chain Director for Penny's Primark, based out of Dublin. So we've had a good discussion about travelling through Dublin Airport prior to this call. So what I'll quickly go through today is just a familiarisation with JD, talk a bit about the strategic agenda for Chief Supply Chain Officers around the place, how our strategy fits within that, and similar to Simon, kind of how we got there. So hopefully everybody's familiar with JD. Essentially, we sell hoodies and trainers to the youth of the world. We're in 29 countries. We generate around 6.2 billion in revenue, over 3,000 stores. We trade also under a number of other banners. So in the USA, under Finish Line, DTLR, Shoe Palace. In the UK, we're the leading outdoor retailer as well with our Go, Millets and Blacks banners. And we have a premium fashion retail business trading under the likes of Tessuti and Scott's in the UK. So actually quite a complex retail and e-commerce business. that retail environment, I think everybody knows, is changing and changing quite fast. So the supply chain had already become core to how retail businesses were evolving. And we were grappling with a number of disruption models and a number of disruption technologies, digitization, getting to grips with that, this Uberization of business models. Labour skills isn't really a new thing. It had been boiling up for quite a while, as had really global politics and an upsurge in the whole corporate social responsibility agenda. Not forgetting that, of course, every chief executive still wanted higher service at less cost. So the basics never went away. Just to look at some of those things that were on the worry list, digitization, we've really been at the heart of our systems moving to the cloud, increasing computing capacity and capability. Machine learning has become very important, particularly around things like forecasting and planning. There's some interesting concepts in 3D printing, not least our biggest supplier, Nike, already have quite a substantial capability to print 3D trainers. And then you move into things like drones. Will they, won't they become a technology of the future? So having to assess all those kind of things and understand their role. Similarly, Uberization, this whole sharing economy, moving to asset-light business models. Again, is it tech that we could use? Who are going to be the winning businesses and who are the Betamax businesses? So really trying to understand where we could leverage that technology in things like freight forwarding, perhaps less so in the world of warehousing. Labour, we're all in a war for talent, and that's talent of skilled and unskilled. We're having to adapt really fast as to how Gen Z want to work and want to learn these days. That's been very important from a tech point of view, moving to things like visualization and gamification for training, and a changing skill mix. As automation and robotics grow, then we need more engineers and more technically competent people. On the political front, we've long been grappling with dependence on sourcing out of China, and then America starts bringing jobs home. So we go, I think, from globalization, that's gone dead and buried now, back to regionalization and indeed some national focus again with local for local, and how that's interacted to create lots of supply shortages and supply disruption and unpredictability in the chain. And then finally, corporate social responsibility. How do we be pragmatic around solutions that are going to save us money, as well as helping to save the polar bears and the dolphins at the same time? A lot of that's around renewables, around circular economy, which is at the heart of where fashion is going. So building links between ethical, your reputation, circular economy, becoming really, really core to how supply chains are now working. But if that wasn't enough, along comes COVID and Brexit, and for us, some real wake-up calls. COVID, we were a single site in Rochdale in the northwest, and we had some COVID outbreaks. We had a lot of visits from our friends from the environmental health. Suddenly, single site risk starts screaming loud about the business. We also saw a dramatic shift to e-com. In fact, one point, our whole business had become e-com with Europe closing down from stores' point of view. And we were trying to do that through an infrastructure that was designed to supply retail, essentially, rather than e-com. Brexit, don't need to talk about that, but the whole country of origin and a new geographical footprint required, whilst dealing with an upsurge and an uptick in the blocked Suez Canal to not having any drivers to put in our trucks. So we had to build a fundamentally new supply chain model. Supply chain models of the future will not look like supply chain models of pre-COVID. They will be more agile, more flexible, and build robustness in to have a degree of resilience that we haven't seen for many years. Our model that reflects that is about building capacity to cope with the growth that we're experiencing, but particularly growth of e-commerce. So we've put short-term some interim e-commerce facilities down, but are building new e-commerce facilities, a big new one in Derby, which I'll come on to. We also have put a brick wall down in the North Sea, probably, and are building a new facility in the Netherlands to cope with our European business to avoid duties and tariffs, which for us run at about 14% on average. And we've put a sort of dotted brick wall down in the Irish Sea because we opened a couple of months ago a small facility in Dublin to do just the same. That development of the strategy, there's a lot of infrastructure there, a lot of new sites. We can't do that all ourselves. It's all about building this network. Supply chains of the future will be a network of partners assembling, disassembling, not businesses doing stuff by themselves. So we've got our club of technology and automation providers. Our key integrator at the moment, for example, is Swisslog. We use PSB here on this site, Dematic. We've done some work with Locus on a robots point of view. So we've assembled a technology network and team. We work with some third-party logistics providers. We run Rochdale ourselves, but we work with GXO. We're going to be running our Dutch facility, and they run our outdoors facility. Clipper as well, although they'll shortly become part of GXO. And then it's important, taking an end-to-end supply chain view, that we work closely with our suppliers, particularly. We're particularly close to Nike, given the size and the impact. So looking at how inbound comes, best route to market, how we can divert in flight, how we optimize the packaging, how we optimize container loading and filling to get a real end-to-end integrated supply chain. And we look at all the tech and all the things, that opportunities that come to us with a 5-step process. First thing is scanning for ideas, but with a ruthless and quick selection process. And it might work for us. Let's have a look at it. We then take that to test and trial and look at whether it would deliver and scale for us. So we do a lot of quick test stuff, evaluations, spit stuff out or move it on. We've got to build in a flexible design because we don't know what the balance of our business will be between e-com and retail going forward. So we need much more flexibility and agility than we've ever had. But we're a big business. We have to have automation that can scale, can be resilient, but I don't want to be too dependent on a fixed wing. So we're supplementing a lot more with this hybrid, that we have some core automation, but we bolt around it with robotics. Robotics are probably much more the future, but still in their infancy in this sector. But the combination of the two, we believe, will build us a future-proof solution. And then the last bit is can we get the systems to talk together, particularly to the old world where we're all running on big ERPs, in our case quite old, but systems integration is the bit that trips us up, because everybody promises that theirs is a plug and play system. And believe you me, I have yet to see a plug and play system in all the years I've been doing this. One day somebody will get there. So what are we doing? Well, I could give you exactly the same spiel that Simon does. We're opening a new e-commerce DC in Derby, which is about 10 miles from Skygate, for all the same reasons that the very group have done, from the locational, late cutoffs for the parcels hubs and so on. We're just a couple of years behind those guys. You can see, again, we're about using the cube. On the left-hand side of the picture there, we're putting in some mezzanine floors, which will be our fast-moving pick areas, which will also have a pouch sorter in it, just like Skygate. On the right-hand side, we're actually putting in an auto store. Our tail of SKUs is quite long, so big fixed auto store solution going into this front part of the facility, and it's all being glued together by our integration partner, Swisslog.
Might get you to start wrapping up there, Martin, if that's okay.
Yeah, in our other sites, we put robotic technology in, Locus, and I'll just play this video and talk to it. So we're using robots these are cluster robots, as you can see there. They fill an aisle, and the picker works in a wave going down the aisle. These have, so far we're in about week 11 of these, and these have improved our pick rate by over 60% in the operation. and it's the closest we come to plug and play. We've already hit our payback target after 8 weeks. So a mix of simple technology to put in and support, help take labour out, use the resources we've got, to more sophisticated stuff. And with that, I'll hand you back.
Thanks very much, Martin. Really insightful and some very interesting topics, I think, to delve into with our panel discussion now, which will kick off. Kevin, you've been monitoring the questions and answers, and I believe you have a couple of questions of your own to deliver. Kevin, as I said before, is our market advisor for engineering, so he's been working with me on this project. So, Kevin, would you like to ask Simon, Martin, any questions?
Sure, absolutely. The first question we've got coming in, and that was sent in kindly in advance by Rob from Principal Logistics, and both of you mentioned moving from one we'd say legacy site or a number of sites to your fully automated solutions, or a number of fully automated solutions. And the question from Rob, which I might pose to you first, Simon, is the challenges that arise from, we'd say, consolidating sites into one, and the process of going from a number of sites or one site to a new site, and what that change is like and what that process is like from your side.
Yeah, it's a very difficult transition to move from legacy sites into an automated site, and that was one of the key principles going into the discovery phase of the solution that we went with. It needed to be compatible with all our existing systems, be able to integrate all of those. And that was also one of the key elements we went into the principles, which was around that vanilla solution, around not bespoking it too much and that it wouldn't work and wouldn't be compatible with all our solutions. We still are, given that we're still a fairly new site, we are still working through those solutions as well and upgrading those solutions to be fully compatible. And I suppose one key element going into it was that the testing for those solutions to be integrated started more than about 18 months before the go live date of Skygate. So we were really confident on the go live that that integration would work successfully.
Thanks, Simon. And to you, Martin, I suppose there's an international component with your role that you touched on, and how integrating a new site in a kind of wider global picture and the challenges that might pose to you.
Yeah, I mean, we're going the other way. We're expanding out. So we're going from one site, and we'll keep Rochdale here, but we'll refocus it on retail. Our challenge has been we couldn't wait for the couple of years that it's going to take to get the Heerlen facility running in Holland, for example. So we've had to put a lot of interim facilities in place. I've opened a small shed in Belgium to try and get some European volume done there, tariff free. We talked about opening in Dublin. So our complexity has come by having a myriad of short-term facilities in place until we can get the bigger train set into play. With the Netherlands, I mean, our team have done a lot of European work before, so we're reasonably comfortable that we've chosen a good logistics country with a good logistics skill workforce, and we'll work with similar partners there. But it does vary by European country. You're absolutely right, and that choice of location on the continent is really key. You can, believe you me, you can make some real screw ups by ending up in the wrong place.
Okay, very interesting. And I suppose to go back to you, Simon, a question we'd have, and I see there's a question from Paul in the chat around autonomous mobile robotics that I think, Martin, you touched on a small bit with your Locust robots, but I suppose a broader question for you, Simon, what on the site still remains manual? We have a number of companies who are kind of looking forward of what solutions they may provide or what they can do in the future, and what aspects of a fully automated site still requires maybe that innovation or is still very manual processes. And if you kind of outline what remains manual in your Skygate site.
Yeah, so it's mainly around our home range, so large outdoor garden furniture. We have still a large range of 2-man and products that still are manual processes at site. One of the aspects that Knapp Solutions did give us was a double XL solution, in that a lot of the totes that you will see that are the same kind of unique size and fit the same product size in there, whereas the 2XL gave us the larger, some of the kind of ones that the categories that fall within 1-man and 2-man that can still fit within our XL solution. Some of those processes are still manual, and we are looking to automate and roboticize some of those 2XL sizes, but it's mainly around our kind of large outdoor furniture that we've still got a manual solution. But in terms of scale of the business, it's circa 1% of the output of the site is in that area. So it's a small amount of the kind of logistics operation.
Yeah, we're probably looking at I was going to say we're looking slightly differently in that we've looked at the end-to-end process, and although we're putting the automation in, to us there's a couple of holy grails. One is the picking process, because that is still manual. Somebody has to go to a pick slot and pull a pack out. There are one or two players, including Knapp, that Simon's team use, who've developed grab arms on a robot to do that, but the variety of products you get is and for us, particularly shoe boxes, don't lend themselves to a grab type robot. So picking arms, it's an area, if you look at Amazon, they're still working on throwing a lot of money at who can come up with a pick robot. That's going to be really key. And then looking at other touch points. So decant on arrival to put stuff into totes again is hand drawn. So we're looking at trying to work with some of our suppliers so that they pack it directly into our totes to go away into the high bay. So I think there's some process stuff, but there's also some tech gaps. And then just anybody who can make the systems integration easier is going to be onto a winner.
Yeah, and just something that jumps to mind with that and the picking process for your side, Martin, with retail stores, how do you integrate, we'd say, the stock that is sitting in a store in Covent Garden here with what you have in the wider distribution centres? Is there use of, we'd say, store deliveries? I know I've seen with other we'd say, retail stores that they use their outlets as potential warehouses in one respect and storage of goods. Is that something you've looked at in JD?
We've looked at, most of our stock rooms are very small. And as a shoe retailer, you've got to keep a stock back of house anyway. So we go to most of our stores pretty much every day with deliveries, and it's a just-in-time model with some quite good systems to pull against what we call the ideals to pull the stock into the store. So very much a keep it lean there. We do some e-commerce from our stores. To supplement, we do. So we've just launched, for example, would you believe we got a 2-hour e-commerce service using Deliveroo? So in London, if you want your trainers urgently and can't get to the store, you can order online and Deliveroo will deliver it within 2 hours. So some of that will get picked from the store, obviously, for that point of lead time. And I think that's those are kind of where the retail model is going. There'll be different grades and therefore fulfillment from a whole set of different nodes in a network, and that's how we'll compete against the pure plays like Simon's business.
It's really interesting, Martin. Just to actually move back to something that was brought up previously, you mentioned your relationship with Swisslog and integrators like that, and I'd like to bring in Simon just quickly to talk about the relationship with Knapp, which you mentioned towards the end of your presentation, and just to kind of pick out how that works, how that relationship developed, and how that looks in terms of a partnership from your side.
Yeah, I think it's a very integrated partnership. So they are our sole provider for all solutions on site. So we part of the discovery phase was that we wanted a one supplier fits all, so a supplier that was able to kind of scope out for all the solutions on site end to end, so that we could reduce the number of suppliers on site and mean that relationship was a lot more direct, and all our problems and issues or future solutions would go through our Knapp team. So I think that was very early in the discovery phase that was decided, and actually the relationship is very healthy. Healthy either way, support each side. So I think it's worked really well in having that one supplier. Whereas back into my kind of other experiences, that's often been a challenge when you've got multiple suppliers or potentially competing in the same area or solutions trying to talk to each other. It becomes a lot more complex. So yeah, I think it's landed really positively having that one supplier.
And Martin, from your side with the Swisslog or Locus Robotics.
Yeah, we because we've got a variety of traditional sites and others, we do a bit more of the tech ourselves. So I've got a small engineering and an automation team. They're the people scouring for solutions, going to the exhibitions, looking at what Amazon or Walmart are doing. And then we'll work with our partners to do that. Swisslog are an integrator, so they will implement AutoStore. So we'll work with them to put the set of suppliers together. So they're slightly different to a Canap who kind of make all their own kit and stuff and buy little bits from the market. Swisslove are much more a pure integrator who put other bits of other people's engineering together. And we work with them partly just to make sure we're getting absolutely the right thing for our business, partly because there are other areas, they don't cover the locus area and piece, so we've had to integrate that ourselves in that particular DC. So we'll have a bit more of a collage of partners and going forward.
Okay, very interesting. And you touch on the locus example where you had to go outside the relationship with Swisslog. And from our company's point of view, looking at the attendee list, we've robotics companies, we've equipment providers. For you, Martin, especially in the position you're in, looking at a new site, how much of the decision on what tech goes in the site from a JD perspective, and how much of it is kind of led by Swisslog? Essentially, should our companies be talking to both the end user and the integrator? What would be your advice for companies, we'd say, looking to get in a new site?
I'd say everybody probably does it slightly differently. So there is no one standard template. There's not a holy grail to look for. We would do what I call co-makership, co-development. So we work very closely with Swisslog, for example, on what the right solution is, put it through their simulation tools to test the data, but challenge them about, should we be using an auto store or should we be using a pouch for these ranges? What does that do? So we kind of keep a degree of our own independence or challenge to go with their expertise to come up with that blend. So yeah, I've got guys who are going around things like the big material handling exhibitions, who are going to institute logistics events and looking at other references and what other people are doing, where we can glean from. We talk to the automation suppliers. The challenge with the automation suppliers is they are absolutely flat out at the moment. I mean, we've got a number who said we can't talk to you for 2 years. Go away. We're too busy. So again, finding that's causing us to have to find other models and other ways of doing it and putting this network together ourselves.
It's really interesting. Conscious of time, and just I think we might have time for maybe one more question. I just wanted to touch, Simon, on you had Keysoft Analytics at the end of your slides as well. Just wondering how much data and connectivity plays into the day-to-day running of the site, and what sort of solutions you might be looking to on that side. Simon, I might go to you, and then last word from Martin.
Yeah, it's absolutely huge. Being e-commerce and being at the mercy of the customers, being able to kind of monitor and track customer trends is really, really important, as well as being able to store and assess the data that is coming through from customers. So yeah, we've put a lot of time and effort going into our kind of OMS, order management systems, and our CMS to make sure we're integrating with and getting the most out of our suppliers and carrier systems, but also out of our customers and that data as well. And the site is really, I'd like to think a lot of it is run on analytics, so giving the managers the tools through those solutions such as the Canap data analytics and Power BI, and some of our in-house kind of MI solutions that we have, to really make sure the manager can make the best decisions, and that information's in the hands of our kind of operators to be able to deliver.
Yeah, I think the key is this is, whilst we're still a people business, this is a people and data business now, and it's got to be real-time data. We're all working to fractions of time getting stuff on that last truck going out for the parcels cut off, getting that last bit of availability into store. So we are much more into the detail of the data than ever before. We've just moved our data into a Google data lake, and using tools like Power BI and Looker to access it more frequently, more heavily, more real-time dashboards for our management team. And trying to leverage some of the tools that are out there. I would say we're probably not as advanced, and we're still in the sort of foothills of what works and what doesn't work for us. But that is it's going to be the way the logistics industry has to go, shifting big volumes of data, getting to the heart of it very quickly, and using more and more AI to help with the day-to-day patterns. What we need to become is about managing the exceptions. But that needs the AI to really begin to click in and do the continuity stuff underneath that.
I think one thing I'd just add onto what Martin said there is around the automated solutions. They are automated. There is opportunities always with those AI solutions. You need the monitoring systems to make sure you're kind of learning from it and providing the right information in there, because it is around that input into the AI that gives it the correct output. So that's a consistent thing for us to be learning.
Absolutely. I think that's a good note to end on, just looking to the future for what some of our companies need to be considering, integrating with that future of automation and that data piece as well. I think there's a lot of key takeaways that we can take from here. We could probably be here talking for another couple of hours about the future of warehousing and innovation. But I think we'll have to leave it there, just looking at the clock. Martin, Simon, thank you so much both for your time with this webinar and for your insights there. A question came in there about slides. We will, of course, be sharing the slides at the end of this webinar. Just to wrap things up, and thanks as well to Conor and Imran, who I believe are still on the line, and to all our speakers indeed. It's been a really insightful discussion. Just to close off, if any of our attendees would like to get in contact with either myself or Kevin, I've put our contact details on the screen. We will be circulating the report and the webinar at the end of this session. And if there's any other questions, please do feed them through to us, and we might contact Martin and Simon then off the back of that. But that's all from us. Thank you very much for joining. As a last comment, this is a new sector and a new area for myself and Kevin that we're exploring. As you can see, there's so much going on in the area and so much to unpack and to discuss. So for any of our attendees, if you could please send through any feedback that you have on the session, what you'd like to see us discuss next, and any future initiatives that we could run. We're really keen to hear your feedback. That's all from us. Thank you very much for joining, and thanks again to all of our speakers for what was a really good discussion. Thanks very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, cheers.
Take care.